In the zone, in the zone, in the zone, podcast. In the zone, in the zone, in the zone, podcast. In the zone, in the zone, in the zone, podcast. In the zone, in the zone, in the zone, podcast. 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 In the zone, in the zone, in the zone, podcast. In the zone, in the zone, in the zone, podcast. In the zone, in the zone, in the zone, podcast. In the zone, in the zone, in the zone, podcast. 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 In the zone.
A little bit late. We're a touch late. We had some production mix up. Our teams, we got a miscommunication, wires crossed, but we're good. They're here, we're here, and we are happy to see you. Chantel, what's happening, baby?
What's up? What's up? I'm excited to have this topic.
Are you?
Yes, I can learn a little something.
Okay.
I've never worked with family before.
I was about to say, have you ever done this before?
Have I worked with family? No.
No.
It's probably a reason for that.
That's
I mean, I've dated people I've worked with. That's a whole nother show topic, though.
Okay, we will.
Ooh.
We can dive into that too.
I don't encourage it at all.
Dating? Wait, like seriously dating?
Yeah, it's like boyfriend, girlfriend.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's a bad conversation. All right, so before we get into the show and our guests, we're gonna play this quick video. Sit down, give us 2 minutes while they. I think this sets up the topic very nicely. Yep.
Contention. 1, money. 2,
Yes.
respect. Do you have a sense, if I said to you, there's 100% to allocate, and one bucket is money, and the other one is credit. The credit for being good.
Yeah, a lot of shit
the
behind
credit
that.
for being better. What would you say your DNA is? And then what is your guess on your dad between money and respect and being right and credit? Let's start with you. What are you as a human when it comes to money and credit? The credit.
Right now, I would say 25 to 40% on money and the rest credit.
Awesome. What about your dad? No worries.
Oh yeah, no, I'd like the money to be able to do what I want, have the freedom and ability, but the credit is very important.
Our favorite.
For my dad at this point, it's all credit. He always
You guys-
chicken on the panel.
You guys,
the world knows I'm still alive.
yeah, you guys are very vulnerable. If you're 55 to 75% credit and he's 100% credit, you two are wildly vulnerable.
Okay.
Because in a world where it's gray, you're both going to be fighting for the credit, for the growth, and the results. Let me tell you why I'm telling you this. Me and AJ, me and my dad, my two experiences over the last 22 years. Me and my dad on credit and money, I would argue is 20% money, 80% credit. Maybe, yeah, 20-80. I would say that I'm 5 and 95. Problems. We overlapped a lot. Fighting a lot. Right? Me and AJ, I'm 5% money, 95% credit. AJ's 95% money, 5% credit. Great team. Awesome. Everybody won. This is the family business framework. People don't speak about it properly. They don't understand that it's money and credit. And the best family businesses overlap in a way where one values credit more than money and vice versa. Thus, everyone's scratching their itch. There'll be resentment 10 years later on both sides. One would want a little more credit. The other wishes they got a little more money, but they're still breathing and living successfully. If you and your dad overlap that much, you must sit down and have dinner with him, show him this video, and speak at nauseum what happens when you fight over credit and you guys take a step back, have a safe word that stops the fight, and then you take a breath and have dinner and talk it through. Communication is the only prayer for you guys.
I gotcha.
My relationship with my dad and my brother has never been and can never be the same since we went into business. Not pro or con, just truth. Your relationship with your dad will never be the same after you entered into this business together.
Do you enjoy working with your family?
Yes, but as the driver of both the
All right, y'all. So I said we played that video to set this up because working with family and or friends and the relationships that that bond, when you put them at the strain of working together in a business where money is involved and or credit is involved, everything go out the window. I've worked with many friends and a few family, have lost some friends working with them. And it's treacherous waters to swim. So we're gonna start having that conversation today. I want to introduce, as a matter of fact, I'll let Sean introduce our guest for the day.
All right. Well, we love a good ITZ version. So let's start with him.
Pop that cherry.
As we have identified in the comments, he's the owner of Medley's Barbecue on 83rd and Stony.
Woo-hoo.
Charles, thank you for hanging out with us.
Awesome.
It only took you 12,000 years to come be with us.
Thanks for having me.
No, okay. That was so lackluster.
we gonna get more. We gonna get more out of him.
You need to get more alcohol in you. What is
We
happening
gonna get
here?
more out of him.
All right, and you guys know her. She's been on almost as much as Jen at this point. Chicken, thank you for hanging out with us.
Hey, you guys.
All right,
Welcome.
I don't know what's
Excited to be
happening
here.
I don't know what's
All right.
happening.
This is what happens when you start the show too late. Everybody gets out of the zone.
Everybody's introduced all
Everybody's
those.
We're
gets out.
not in the zone.
That's right. We're
We're
gonna get
out
in the
the
zone.
zone.
We're gonna chop it up. We're gonna chop it up. So the reason we invited you all today is because both of you all clearly have had business relationships with either family or friends or both. And we want to talk about the wins, the losses, the pitfalls, the hurdles, the gains when you work with somebody that you're close to like that. So I'm gonna start on my right as always. Chicken, let me know. Shut up. Okay. No, you're gonna start. Who have you worked with in a familial aspect?
So I worked with my previous ex-husband. He was a developer as it comes with regards to real estate, and I am a real estate broker. So we kind of, he bought the properties and I helped him sell the properties.
Okay. I'm gonna stick on you for a little bit with this one because this is an interesting dynamic.
Great.
So he was your husband at the time or your ex when you all started the business?
When we started the business, we were just friends.
Okay.
When we started. Yeah, when I started working for him, we were
You were working for him.
Yeah, technically, because I was his broker,
Okay.
as I was his real estate broker,
Mhm.
and he was developing the properties and
Mhm.
selling. He was flipping.
Mhm.
So as he's flipping, I was the agent. His thing was he had an agent that he was working with before, but he stated he wanted a pretty girl to sell his real estate, and so he felt that sells better. The whole thing was.
So how'd you get in there?
that's how I got in based on my looks. At the time, he thought I was pretty,
Okay.
and so he wanted me to sell his properties, and so that's how I got the job. And
So how long after you were working for him as his real estate agent, as friends or as business associates before you all started dating?
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I understand that question now.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we were already.
See, all right.
Gotcha.
Let's stop the bullshit.
I understand it because I was saying we weren't married at the time.
But you all were
that it
dating.
started. Yes,
Okay,
we were talking at the time.
That makes
Gotcha.
sense.
Okay,
Yes.
that makes more sense.
Yes.
All right, so you all were dating at the time, and then you got married during the course of the relationship.
Yes.
Okay, and now then you got divorced,
Yes.
and the relationship business-wise kept going.
The relationship business-wise kept going. Yes.
It's interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
How did you guys? Maybe we should probably stop there. I want to document that question because my question to her then turns into like, what was the conversation once you guys got divorced on maintaining the business? But I feel like that's a question.
We'll come back to that. I want to set that up.
Okay.
Ow.
Charles, you work with family.
Yeah.
Tell me about how that came to be. Why that came to be.
So yeah, Medley is initially just my concept. Just trying to bring something to the South Side, alternative to all of the long-standing establishments.
Limbs.
Mm.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
That's just on me.
Why? Let that man tell a story, please.
I'm just kidding. Keep
I
going.
just want to offer something different, and I think that we do offer something that you won't find anywhere else in the city, possibly the world. As far as just we got a wide range of rotational items, but again, we offer everything but no pork. So the dynamic kind of kicked off the first day I signed the lease, went in to clean the place up. It was just me and my buddy Andy, and my aunt just showed up. And I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, you out of your damn mind if you think you're gonna do something. I'm not here. So I couldn't.
Aww.
Don't do that. Couldn't kick her out.
You can't do nothing.
Yeah,
You can't do nothing.
Be quiet.
Couldn't kick her out. So it was more so. It was like she was. You talk about your day one. My aunt was my day one. So from that point, we started cleaning up, getting the place ready to open. And it's been her and myself every day from there, and then family started to trickle in, and we can get into that a little bit more. But it was more so where I'm looking for people not necessarily experienced, but people that wanted to work. And one by one, it was like, well, baby, such and such need a job, and they ready to work. They willing to work, and it's like. And I knew, and I know we'll get into it later, but it was like, I knew in my mind what was going to happen, and everything kind of came to fruition. But yeah, it was just that whole startup and getting up and running. The challenges the challenges by themselves, that was enough to overcome. But then just dealing with the dynamic of family, it was crazy.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's another level of pressure. Yeah. You said, Sean, you've never.
I mean, I thought about it technically.
Okay.
I'm in business with my friend right now.
Facts. That is
I
true.
didn't think about that. So I forgot about this part of my life. So I actually started a business in 2011. It was a shopping tour. The dynamics of that were a little interesting. So the girl who approached me, her and I were friends a few years prior, and we kind of fell out over something stupid and girly, so I won't get into that. And we reconnected, and she approached me with this idea for a shopping tour. And I've always been incredibly organized and kind of thoughtful in that way, and she thought it would be a good idea to bring me on for operations.
Okay.
So we actually started that shopping tour. We'll talk about the demise of that later in the conversation. But yeah, that was the dynamic. We weren't really friends when we started it. We were trying to restart our friendship at the time, and I guess we were doing it through starting and running a business. Yeah. And now I'm having a business with you.
So you had a business. So you had a friendship. The business rekindled that friendship.
Not exactly. We started anyway, just because we kind of ran into each other. And right when we were rekindling the friendship, she proposed this business idea.
And then the business and the friendship both dwindled out?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We'll get into that story in a little bit.
Did.
So real quick on my end, it's funny. I was thinking about this earlier today. I've started and run a lot of businesses in my time, and each and every one of them have been with friends. and in one particular one, a family member, is just that I trusted him. You know what I'm saying? We came up with a lot of these concepts together, and or a friend brought me into their concept. And as we'll get into later, there are some ups and downs with that. But I think for mine, so I had In the Zone, I had the In the Zone sports group, I had Collective Quest Entertainment Group. Right now, I'm working with HG23 Growers, Buckets Investments, Buckets LLC, which is a totally different investment group with the same initials, because it's the same, two of the same three, four rather people. I'm forgetting one.
So you
virtual,
only have
virtual day parties.
So you only run businesses with your friends.
Yeah.
Is that intentional?
It's not that I go seeking business opportunities with my friends necessarily. Is that business opportunities arose and the people I trusted to do it were people that are already in my circle. People already know that had the skill set I was looking for to advance that business, or they saw the skill set in me and they brought me on to advance the business. So for example, In the Zone, the sports league was not my baby, was not my invention. That was my boy Charles Campbell, and he brought me on to help support him on the marketing end because that wasn't his forte, but it was his original brainchild to do it. You know, I could go into all the businesses, you know, down the line, but there was a level of trust, there was a level of familiarity, there's a level of I know what skills you bring because I know you as a person. But then once you start bringing all those things into the mix, right? And you can't, it's different when you don't really know anybody and you figure out those skill sets because you can eliminate the emotional aspects. When it's your boy or it's your girl and they let you down on something, it's not just in business sometimes. Sometimes you got to make it, you got to reframe your mind, but no, you let me down, not only as a business partner, but as a friend. And that's where shit gets rough. But that's the conversation down the road.
All right. So let's talk about the challenges of a business. Charles, what's been the biggest challenge of mixing your new business? Because it's 3 years old now? It's still fairly new business, like starting this new business with your family.
The biggest challenge is to pull everybody up to your level of commitment and enthusiasm for it. And it's impossible. Nobody's ever going to want it as much. My aunt is the only person that I can count on that wants it as bad as I do. Anybody that owns a business where you have a team, you have staff, you run into all kind of issues in terms of just staffing, people showing up to work. I mean, just that's probably one of the biggest challenges. And with me, I'm usually there from 4 or 5 in the morning until I'm just worn out. And you know, you guys know, like I told you before we even came on, you're lucky you called me before I took a nap because once I lay down, it's that's it.
Yeah, so that's what we hear.
Yeah, so it's 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, and just running all day long. The biggest challenge is just getting people to get on board with your vision, and it comes off harsh at times because I have expectations, and if they're not being met, I'm going to vocalize. I'll say it, and at this point, you can't be nice about it. You try to talk to people civilly and professionally, but when you get to a point of frustration, it just spills over to where, you just let it all hang out.
Why? Go ahead, finish.
No, that's just what it is. That's my day to day where I'm just dealing with people, and I'm not a people person. So
yes, we know.
That's the big.
We love you. We love you regardless. I know he's such a delight. So charming.
That's the biggest challenge is just getting people on board, and you have standard procedures in place. And for me, it's again with the family aspect. I think people get real comfortable, and they don't treat it like a job. They treat it like, well, this is my cousin's business. So, and when I call them on it, it's almost confrontational. And I've had, I've had it where a person either quit or got fired, and then they came back the next week like, I still love you, and I wouldn't do anything to hurt the business. And I know they wouldn't do anything to purposely hurt the business, but it's more so, it's a comfort level that it's disruptive to the point where it's just like, me, I like right now I don't want to deal with it, and that's kind of my day-to-day challenge, not just weekly. It's just a day-to-day challenge is just far as just keeping things rolling, and I'm always in motion, always trying to grow the business and just do things to make us grow.
Why do you think, from your observation, your aunt is more invested in the business than, I don't know if it's cousins or nephews or whoever, than the rest of your family that's involved in your business?
That's a whole nother.
I'm sorry, too invasive of a question. My bad.
It's deeper than that. That's my mom's baby sister, and she's always looked out for me. She was like, she was like the young aunt. You know how you have the
young cool aunt.
So yeah, and she
more like your big sister then.
Yeah, she always looked out for me. And when my mom passed, it was more so it was that gap, and she just filled right in and just tried to make sure, because I'm always to myself, so she just tried to make sure I'm all right. So with that, like I said, when we went in, signed the lease, and went in to clean the place up, she just showed up. It's like, oh no, you're not getting rid of me, and then she just stuck around. And from the initial concept, it's evolved to where it was primarily just straight barbecue, and we mixed in soul food sides, and you've been in, we do
ramen.
Yeah, we do it. Well, all that stuff that's all just my, my weird way of putting things together. But as far as the soul food sides, and you come in there any time of day and you'll see her back there washing greens and cutting yams and mixing up the mac. Everything's made from scratch. It's a pleasure to work with her, and that's the thing is, it's more so if I didn't have, and I tell her this all the time, it could just be me and you in here. We can get rid of everybody, and that's how I feel, but that's not realistic. So you gotta deal with that aspect of it as far as just managing people. But it's the getting people to your level it's an impossible feat. It's never gonna happen. But as long as you got at least one person that sees your vision and is there with you, step for step, then you'll be all right.
I don't know how you're gonna talk about your aunt like that the whole show and think I'm not gonna. I'm sorry.
Oh, don't do that.
I ain't doing that shit.
Don't do that.
I'm sorry.
That's fine. It's fine.
Whatever. You.
Me what?
Oh, sorry. Chicken.
Yeah.
Biggest challenge: mixing business with the personal relationship.
And this is different. No, this is different because Charles' aunt and family, cousins, right? This is somebody you chose to be with, and then unfortunately chose not to be with. So I'm curious how it works while you're together and how it's working now that you're not.
Oh, you guys are still working together?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
This is why I'm curious.
Even more fascinating.
So working backwards, again, I'm a real estate broker and I own my own company. And so as owning my own company, I can actually manage properties. So I'm able to manage his rental properties while I'm not with him. And so, all the tenants, they know me. And so, they reach out to me and then I'll just send him the text to say whatever. And, and he'll respond, if I need to send out a contractor or somebody to fix something, like we, work that around, with regards to the accounts and, we just kind of work that out. And we kept an account open just in the event that cash needs to be given to the person directly because he doesn't want to work with anybody directly. Like he's not a people person. And so he doesn't want to work directly with them. So if I need to meet a contractor to give them cash, we have an account that is still active where I can be able to access that account to be able to pull the cash out to be able to do X, Y, and Z if that's needed. In most cases, it's not. I can just do Zelle or that kind of thing. But so he makes very good decisions with regards to business sense. Like he's a very good businessman, which is one of the reasons why I was attracted to him. He makes good business sense. So I'm originally when we met, I was a worker. And so there's a difference going back to what he was saying. There's a worker person and then there's the entrepreneur. That's the right word. And so they have different mindsets. And so my mindset was I just work for the man. I handle stuff. I do whatever. And his mindset is always on how do I detach myself from the man? What can I do to make sure my passive income exceeds my expenses so that I don't got to worry about working anymore. So I can retire. So he's always on the retirement thing. That was his whole thing. And so, going back to your video, the video was talking about, there's some people that talk about credit and some people talk about cash. He was all about making sure that stuff is for the future. And so he liked to use credit for the sake of, building wealth. And whereas me, I just want to see the cash in my account. I need to see what's in my savings and checking account. And so he's like, that money in your checking and savings account ain't gonna do nothing. You need to put it in the stock market. You need to do this. It needs to grow. You need to put it in a property, whatever. So I still needed my cushion and still he needed that. And so there was a level of control where I had to give him access or control to a lot more money than what I was comfortable with. As a single person, but he kind of steered me in the direction of, okay, well, buy this and buy that. And so he was very helpful with regards to, making some decisions for that. The challenges I would say would be because I didn't necessarily want to be married again. That ended up being a business decision that we made later on. And it made good business sense, but that wasn't something in which that, we wanted to do when we originally started. But starting with that, it was like okay, so let me get this straight. So normally I would get, let's just say, I'm throwing some numbers out there, right? Because, with the NAR, we're not allowed to say words. So let's just say 3%, right? I normally would get 3%. Well, because he's my husband or because we're in a relationship, it was, I don't want to pay 3%. I just want to pay 1 whatever percent. And it's like,
oh, he's trying to renegotiate.
Right. So it's kind of like,
you can.
It's like, you get this good loving, you get this 1.5.
Right. And so it's kind of like what goes back into the household. And so, like, why am I paying you to do X, Y, and Z? It's like, and so it was like, okay, well, yeah, I get it. And so now my own money isn't building because I'm thinking about my account, but he's thinking about the future. But when he pays that 1.5% and he gets to save that other 1.5%, that goes into his business.
That's right. The
His
business.
joint, it goes to the business account.
Which you aren't in.
Which I'm not in that account. I have access to it, but that's his business account. Now, the good thing is that, again, he makes good business decisions. So he's not out buying Rolexes and, extras, shoes and all that kind of stuff. He's not that type of person. So that money actually did go into the business account. However, upon us separating and, us devouring the relationship, it ended up being, well, all that money is still in that business account.
That's
It's like, well, that's where the business money is. And it's kind of like, well,
and your name's not on that business.
And my name not on that business. And so it's kind of like, well, what did I, and so it was kind of like that, but I fed into it because it helped our livelihood, it helped, our daily income, our daily expenses and all that kind of stuff. So it was, it was one of them things where, I fed into it, but it helped our household while it was helping. And then once we, devoured, it was one of those things where he kept most of the money because he made most of the, major decisions and stuff like that.
So, interesting question for you. Do you find that the relationship
shut up.
works better now? Do you think the relationship works, or the business relationship works better now that you guys are divorced, or did it work better when you guys were married?
My apologies. I was reading.
That's okay. They
I know I'm not supposed to be.
They trolling in the comments.
I know I'm not supposed to. But can you please repeat that question?
Do you think the relationship?
The show started a little late. We had a few sips. Do not judge my home.
Please do not judge me. Okay. Go
Do you think the relationship, the business relationship, is better now that you guys are divorced, or did it work better when you guys were married?
Oh, that is a very good question. I think it works. I think it works the same.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, I can't really see a major difference in it other than now I will get my full commission. Like it's not it's not an option that some of it is going to go back into the, whatever. But no, but then again, we severed in good terms, obviously, because I still work. I still work for him technically. But so if I ever needed anything, I know that he would step forth. So yeah, no, I think it works the same.
Okay. Pause.
What was the question?
Biggest challenge. Clearly, you're watching the comments too.
Yes.
Biggest challenge of working with, in your case, friends.
I think the biggest challenge, as I mentioned earlier, is that there's a level of, to Charles's point earlier, there's a level of, I expect this as a coworker or a business partner, somebody I don't have a personal relationship with. And there's a level of, I expect this more out of you because we do have this personal relationship, because we are friends, because I've seen you bust ass for the man, and now you kind of skating when it's with us, right? Or we've had so much mutual respect, and then when we get in this setting, the respect isn't reciprocated the way it was as we were as friends. So and I might even been guilty of this. I'm not saying this is always coming my way. I might have shot this at a few people. I know I have actually. So I think that's the toughest part, because you've already got these relationships built, and you've got certain expectations because these relationships already exist, and you expect them to respect and elevate because of that personal relationship. And sometimes they don't have the bandwidth. Sometimes they're not as invested as you. Sometimes they're not maybe as skilled as you thought they were from the outside looking in, right? There's a whole lot of things that go into that. But it's hard to separate the, hey, you my dog and I brought you on, or we came together to do this, and you're not pulling up your end. And it feels personal as opposed to it just being, you just, for whatever reason, aren't doing the business end as well as I hoped you would have. And at the gig, I sit you down, we make a plan, right?
Right.
You know, you might get on a pip, you know what I'm saying? Whatever the case.
Not putting your friend on a pip.
No, but what I'm saying is there's no emotion there. It's just, I think you can do the job. I want you to do the job well. God forbid I have to go out and figure out how to hire some new people. I'm gonna put you on this pip so we can figure out how to make it happen. Either you step up and rise to the occasion or you don't. With a friend, you can't really do that, right? Particularly when you're business partners. So now it's just, I want to have this conversation with you as a business partner, but it's so hard to separate the friendship. But when you don't, you can lose friends behind it.
Which we'll dig into in a little bit. I think for me, I think I will talk about, at least from my lens, from my previous entrepreneurial endeavor, the communication. I think because I think mine was a bit more complicated because we weren't friends at the time. We were building a friendship while doing this business. I think our communication just completely lapsed. We did not.
Mac, I'm gonna put you on a pip.
We did not, even though we talked about aspects of the business, like the goals and our roles and things like that, we really didn't get into the nuances of what each other's expectations of the others were. Right. I think we just and it also could have been, it was our first venture. You kind of have to, stumble your way through learning those lessons, but we just really didn't communicate expectations, and those things ended up coming out in inopportune times. And to your point, right, when they came out, feelings were hurt because of how it was communicated versus my expectations. So I definitely would say people communicating in business is just especially when it's family or somebody you're familiar with, tends to be a little lapsed. Unlike if you were working with somebody you absolutely know you're gonna talk their fucking head off because you want to be clear about all the steps that are going to be needed. So,
but communication is different all the way around, like when you're dealing in relationships or business, like you could be talking to somebody about, as the video was saying, you could be talking to somebody about, passion with regards to doing the process and doing the work, and their mind is focused on, what did he say? He mentioned,
because he talked about credit and money.
Credit. Right. So,
getting the credit.
They focused on getting a bank loan, and somebody else is focusing on, just putting in the hard work and doing, these type of things. But, learning their whoever's their person's communication style, that's important, whether we're talking about business or relationships or kids or whatever, but learning how they communicate, because, like he said, you could bring a family member on and be like, oh yeah, I want to help. But if all they're trying to do is come in and make money, then it's gonna, because in our relationship, the previous, we had a guy to come in and say, hey, look, I got this project I want you to invest in, because I know you got the money and, you can invest in this project. You ain't got to do nothing. I'm going to do all the work. And this is like, so does that make common sense to you? So to us, it didn't even make common sense. But to him, it made perfect sense for him to get on the phone and call us and ask us to borrow this obscene amount of money for his startup, for his business, because he had a passion, he had a dream. But we're thinking your passion, your dream lacks so many other things before we can actually get to the point of giving you money for it and trusting you with that. Because what's going to happen is you're going to be like, cuz you good for it, cuz, oh, my bad, cuz what I supposed to do.
Right.
So,
yeah, I think the reason I played the video, and I don't know if everybody saw it, but what he was saying was that some people are worried about the background, the financials, the health of the organization. And then some people are I'm paraphrasing, are the face or care about the credit, and not necessarily, even to your point, Chicken, the credit, not meaning like the financial credit, but just the credit, the shine, right? And you got to have a balance there, right? If everybody's worried about the shine and not worried about the money, you're probably not making no money.
Right.
If everybody's worried about the money and not the credit, you're probably not promoting your business enough to get the money. But if, when you got a perfect balance of somebody's like, I'm behind the scenes, I don't need to be the face, I don't need a lot of the attention, you go out there and do that.
Yeah.
That's cool. Where I've run into issues is, though, where people are too about the credit.
No, it's just about
too much about the credit, but there's work to be done on the back end. You ain't doing that. But when it's time to man-tan, your ass right the fuck there.
Not man-tan.
But you ain't done shit before to put that production together. And that's where it gets frustrating.
I would definitely say when I started my business, and this is no shade to her, I'm just going to be like very transparent how I saw it from my end. I think she was, and she did a lot of work. She did what was expected of her as CEO, but I do think she was a little bit more concerned about the business looking like hers versus it being ours, right? Which was the initial agreement. And there may be some stuff that has gone on that made her want to do that. I don't know. We never really discussed it. Maybe we will one day. But from my lens, it looked like she was more concerned about she being the business while I run the operations, and maybe people knew I was there. Maybe people,
and that didn't work for you.
It would have been fine
had that been
the expectation coming out the gate. If you're asking me to be a partner and we're going to do this together, then my expectation is we're going to do it together. Because I'm not a person, if you've ever worked with me, I don't need no shine. I don't really care if people, matter of fact, I prefer people don't know I'm there. Now you a lie and a half. I do. I prefer people don't know I'm there. But if your expectation is we need to go to these parties, we need to be seen, we need to have these articles, then I'm going to operate in that mode. But you can't change your mind 3 months later that that's not what you want because you're uncomfortable with however that came off or whatever people were saying behind that. That can't be the thing. I don't like the switch up. The red pull is
this is your show, Sean. By the way, it's your show.
Oh no, it's definitely your show. You're the talent. You tell me all the time you're the talent.
It's your show, but I'm the talent. Two different things.
Whatever. All right, you want to ask the next question?
No, go ahead.
Where are we going next? I can always do this.
Oh,
you damn old ass man. Now we talked about the challenges. What are what's the niceties of working with people you know? Let's start with. Did we start with Chicken? No, we started with Charles last time.
Charles had talked for a minute. I want to get Charles back in.
Well, Charles is never going to talk.
That's why I want to make sure we get his ass back in here.
Well, no. What are the best parts of working with the family? I mean, we know you're on, and I'm going on in a second when you talk about how loved she is. What brings you joy about working with your family?
At the same time, it's just knowing that you're surrounded by people that look like you, got your DNA. I mean, that's just it gives you a sense of satisfaction and fulfillment saying that we did this together. But again, that's when things are going right. And
most of the time it don't.
You're putting out fire. I mean, I'm putting out fires all day, every day. But every now and then, like when we have big catering orders, and I'm pushing everybody, and I know we have every now and then we have people have kind of like a mysterious illness the day that they know that we have a big order coming in. I mean, it had, like I said, it could be like the Stony Island version of what is that? The Bear. I mean, I'm not bullshitting, but it's
The Bear's an excellent show for anybody that watch.
It's you get that satisfaction of knowing that you pull together as a team and just knowing that it's they do have my back. They have my back, but again, I think the challenge is just getting people on board and really pushing. And I know nobody's ever going to push as hard as I do, but it does give you a sense of gratitude, just satisfaction that you pulled that off together.
Oh, I'm gonna do that all fucking show.
I can't help it. I'm sorry. Don't do that.
And we've got to make sure we come back to Tina's question. I see you, Tina.
Yes, I saw that question.
Go ahead, ask Tina a question.
No. That's later down the line.
Yeah.
What would have been? Would you stop acting like you don't know this?
Yes, you're on the show too, babe.
Yes, you, shorty. What were the? And this is a different relationship.
Yeah.
What is the joys of building something together with somebody you're in a intimate relationship with?
So I think that it's nice to see the progress it's nice to see the account growing. It's nice to see the, just the camaraderie of it all. And, sometimes we laugh about it, we, have some jokes and stuff about different things. And even when we can't laugh about anything else because, the marriage has failed, we can still laugh about the business. If something, comes with regards to, like we had a property that, had, some flooding, and it was like, well, the tenant, whatever. And it was just like, well, man, she needs to, and then it was kind of like, well, yeah, I guess you could. And it was kind of like, and so we had a good laugh on that, so like, even though the relationship has failed and with regards to working, with regards to the business, kind of like, okay, well, I'll take care of that. You'll do that. Okay, cool. Just let me know when it's done. And then it's fine, and so seeing that he's still successful and he's still, working through. And I did want to respond to the whole half comment, because it was like, well, I thought, in a divorce, you're supposed to get half. And I felt that I didn't want to do half. I didn't even ask for anything like that, anything close to that, because I felt that his business mindset was set before I came in. Now, even though we grew substantially when I got there, but it was more so his mind that made it work. It was my money that
What you looking at
helped
me
to
for?
do.
I'm looking around. I didn't look specifically at
So
you.
that's why I didn't do the half, because he was already a businessman before I came into. I was a working woman when I met him, just with my little money on the side. I always crack this joke. I'd be like, he was working on a project when I first met him. We was a few months in, and he goes, oh my goodness, I'm down to my what do you call that, cushion? I'm down to my cushion. And I was like, oh shoot. I was like, well, you better hurry up and sell this project, because you're gonna be as broke as I am. And I was cracking a joke, and he stopped everything and was like, I'll never be that broke. And red flag, we were talking about red flags earlier. Yeah, I should have caught that, because I was like, I didn't think I was broke. I had, some thousands of rights.
Yeah.
So like he could have said something else in that moment, but okay.
I was thinking, we was like, I thought he was gonna laugh.
Yeah,
I didn't know it was gonna be like that.
No.
He looked at me like I was beneath him, like, nah, you broke, bitch, But anyway, I fast forward. So I didn't want to do half, because he was already, a substantial businessman. I just helped him with regards to, the process, and we helped each other. So that's why I didn't do half.
Respect.
Sure.
The journey part, though, yeah, that I think that was, I don't know if I mentioned that, but that is a big part of it, where you get some satisfaction out of it, because knowing where you started and where you are now, we're not even, like, in my mind and the vision that I have for Medley, we're not even a quarter of the way to where I want it to be. But from where we started, and the craziness and being in panic mode, and when things get busy, people are running, and it's just sweaty and hot, and it's just out of control.
Just mayhem.
From where we started to where we are now, it's not perfect, but each day we're getting more and more efficient. Things getting, quality is getting more consistent. Things getting better. So it's, you kind of reflect on that, and it's like we did that together. So yeah,
That's what's up.
Love it.
Joys of working with me.
I mean, you are a pleasure to work with. I think the joys of it, and I forgot to shout out my wife. Hey, baby, we do have a investment company ourselves, and we got a few real estate properties and some other things. But you got to do the thing, keep it in the family. But I think the joy of it is, to be frank, to be honest, a lot of it is not even because Charles made the point about the journey and the success and knowing we built this together. But it's the in the moment, right? Like, a lot of the things I've done are event based. So to sit around, when I threw parties, for example, sit around a club, and it's 10:45, 11, and there's 15 people in there, and you all look at each other like, oh shit. And then half an hour later, it's 200 people in there, and y'all like, yeah, let's drink, motherfucker. So just the moments, those moments of knowing that the hard work, the conversations, the fights, they built something. And to be frank, even in the losses, right? There have been times we've invested in some things and they didn't pan out the way we thought they would, or we hoped they would. But to sit back and have those conversations later, and to get a drink and be like, where we misstep, where did we think wrong? Maybe we should have thought about that. We missed this red flag, whatever. And to hear your boys, because it's interesting to know people as your friends or your family. And it's different to see them in a business setting. I've said this on multiple occasions. When I see my boys in their fields, in their world, speak or present or do whatever they do, it's like, who the fuck is that? I only know this drunk slurring motherfucker. And now he's up there killing it. Or he's back there in that kitchen killing it. Or he's killing it. So to see that come together, form like Voltron, even in failure, and have them have these amazing thoughts and insights and viewpoints, it's just such a joy to have this other side of the friendship or the relationship you wouldn't have had unless you worked together.
Right.
I would have only known you as a support system or a kicking it buddy or whatever.
Apparently a drunk.
Or a drunk or whatever it may. Well, we were all there. Or whatever it may have been. But now I see this intellectual business side I never would have had access to unless we worked together.
Yeah. For me, and me and Brian haven't talked about his self and myself, but I'll talk about him. One of my favorite things about working with Brian is that, well, there's two things. One, we got to skip all that norming. If you work in corporate America, the norming and the forming, all the things you have to do to build a team, right? We automatically came together. We had gotten all that familial shit out the way, and we were able to kind of talk about how we want things to go and how we want to develop the podcast. My other favorite thing about working with Brian is there is a true baton toss, right? Of course, you guys don't see this because you're not supposed to, but some weeks Brian is like, what we gonna do? I don't know. And I'm like, all right, I'll figure it out, and vice versa. And we very smoothly, baton toss between the two of us. If one of us just doesn't have it in them, the other one will pick it up and absolutely do it and run with it. And you guys won't know it because it looks like we collaborated together, and that doesn't mean we don't. And even when we collaborate, we sit on the phone for like 2 hours. We try to find a damn topic, and we end up coming to like 6 or 7 more topics because we do have a very tight friendship. We'll iron out one thing, and it just bleeds into a whole bunch of stuff, and it just becomes like a total what are those sessions where you sit and you like pound out that brainstorming process? So that is absolutely two of my favorite things about working with Brian in this space.
Oh,
thank you.
Well, what's funny about all facts? What's funny about that though is I've seen that. Jennifer, fuck you. I've seen that in so many spaces with so many of my people, and I mean, I'll say this: DC, I love you. I doubt you're watching, but if you ever do, I love you, and you know this. But me and DC and Tehran and Jeff and Said was sitting in my yard one day. I'll never forget this. Talking about virtual day parties and trying to figure out some things and whatever. And me and DC got into it. And I was like, nigga, you not pulling your weight. You just not. You falling asleep on camera. You're not coming to meetings, blah, 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 blah. And DC got shitty and said the shit he thought he was doing or whatever. And then we fussed and fought 30 minutes. And then I was like, fuck you, nigga. He's like, fuck you, nigga. And then we hugged. Had a drink, and we kept it moving. And I think sometimes that either destroys a relationship or it builds a relationship up. Tehran's downstairs right now. We've argued with each other, blah, blah, blah. But with a drink. But I love that man. And I respect him as a business partner because I know his intentions are the best. And if I've ever called him on the carpet, he respects it. And when he know he's wrong, he said, that's on me. And when I'm wrong, I say, that's on me.
Right.
And when you got a real relationship and a friendship like that, even if it's family, you hope that's how it goes. Sadly, it doesn't always.
All right, so let's dig back into the challenges, right? Because an interesting question was answered about having to fire people. And I guess maybe that should lead more into not just firing, but having to separate, right? Because you all are all entrepreneurs. So, and I guess you can talk about firing if you want to, but like, then let's start with you, Brian. Like having to dissolve a business relationship, did it always lead to the relationship dissolving as well, the personal relationship? Like, what did that look like for you to even execute something like that?
So, no.
No, you haven't had to do it?
No, it didn't lead to the friendship dissolving. And I put a caveat on that. So, this is the ugliest of them. And I won't put names in it, but right, fire or Vic, right. There was an instance where I had two business partners, and one he wasn't happy with the direction of the company, and he wanted to take it and move with it, and he wanted to dissolve us, the other two business partners. And at first, I was like, fuck you, then go ahead and do your thing. Let's see where you go without me. And then in my head, I was like, wait a minute. 2, 1, fuck you. So we wound up reversing it and buying him out of the business, right? So at the time, it was kind of contentious, and then we sat down as men and talked about it, and then we went our separate ways, and I thought it was cool. And then something happened on some complete other nonsense, and I'll be frank about it. We were in a fantasy basketball league together, and I said I wasn't playing. I made it clear I wasn't going to be in the league that year. And then when it came time at the end, he was like, "You never paid your money." I said up front I wasn't going to play, right? So I'm not paying because I said I wasn't. And he took that opportunity to be mad at me and dissolve the friendship, which tells me that he was never content with the way the business dissolved, because that's just silly. It was $25. Stop it. So in that case, yes. But in other cases where people have left, have there been some back and forth and arguments when it happened? Absolutely. Did the friendships dissolve? Absolutely. Absolutely.
I had a follow-up question, but it's too personal. So
no, go ahead.
I just forgot that damn fast. Damn, my old age.
You old.
It'll come back.
Come back to you. Go.
All right, chicken.
What was the question?
Having to fire people, having to dissolve stuff. And I guess you had this one business with your husband, and you talked about
Yes.
and you all haven't dissolved the business. So I guess have you guys had to, I don't know. I'm going to go back to Charles because I just thought about that for a second.
Well, I just wanted to state with regards to, because we do manage properties, and I've had to not a company. I refuse to rent to family and friends. Refuse. That is not an option to rent to family and friends. If I know you personally, and they are like very, very small amount of people, and on both right ends. And he's very business conscious, so he's a little bit more strict. He's stricter than I am, but we're very strict when it comes to family and friends. And so we don't, because we don't want the option of, well, you got it, or cuz auntie had, my baby had the birthday party. We don't want any of those options because the bills still have to be paid. And I feel when we're dealing with family and friends will tend to, and I don't think they purposely want to take advantage, but I think if an option comes to take advantage, they can and they will, and I only know this because we're dealing with the tenants who are just non-family. They'll be like, oh, it was Christmas and my baby had, I hear you. I do understand that and solely understand that, but here's that 5-day notice.
Right.
And you can pay or you can move out within these 5 days, and they respond differently than when family and friends would respond, because now you don't know me, I don't know you, I don't know nothing. And so this whole sob story that you're giving me, our bills still have to be paid. And so when you're buying
and
Christmas
my profits
gifts,
still got to be made,
and my profits still have to be made, because it's still a business. I can't go into Walmart with an excuse as to why I want to steal something out of there.
Right.
No, they still have to make their profit. Now, if you steal something out of there, you did something illegal, but in reality, you can't go and talk to the manager and he talk and say it's okay for you to, no, it's a business. And so I find that when we're dealing with, people that are not related, they respond differently than people that are related. And I have never, I'm a real estate broker, and I have yet to deal with family or friends. I've had friends of family and friends, but I've never, family and friends, they always go outside of me. They always go to somebody else. And I'll be like, oh, you bought a house? Oh yeah. Huh. That was weird. Who was your broker?
I got a different question for you.
Hold on. What's funny about that? I'll let you get that. But what's funny about that is, though, that there's a difference, right? Like you evict a tenant and it's Christmas time. I mean, you might feel bad about it, but cousin Kenneth Tenney ain't showing up at Nana's house. Like, she could kick me out. I had to sleep in motherfucker house.
I had to sleep in my car.
And I'm here Christmas because I can't eat because chicken and kick me out. Right? Who want that lift?
And that's why I don't. That's exactly why.
Makes sense. Actually, that's why when I bought my house, my goal was not to use family or friends as a realtor, because I wanted to be able to fire somebody without feeling bad about it.
Wow.
Because that stuff get all weird. All right, but a different question for you. Do you have a dissolution clause between yourself and your ex-husband? Like when the business does dissolve, is there a dissolution clause where you guys understand how the dissolution will happen?
No, because it won't be dissolved.
Oh shit. Cool. Excuse. Maybe we all should consider you too some kind of disillusion clause for your business since you got 12,000 of them.
I'll kill everybody. That's my disillusion.
That's your disillusion.
That's right. If we decide to dissolve, I'll kill everybody.
But to your point, though, let me say real quick, I did have a girlfriend who I was her realtor, and she went and hired another realtor to do while I was working with her, and bought a house and tried to sneak and act like it didn't happen, and told me some whole, crazy stuff. Yeah, it was like, and she did some lying, and she came back and said, okay, I lied because I didn't agree with her lender. Me and her lender didn't get along, and I was explaining to her why, if I don't get along with the lender, it's an issue. And so I was explaining to her issue, and so she did have issues with it, and she apologized and said whatever, and we fell out. Like, we were done, because I was like, well, how dare you? And it was something she had did 10 years before, and I put all that together, and I was like, how dare you? But then I thought about it, right? To me, people make decisions based on their decisions, not me. I read the book, The Four Agreements, and people, it has nothing to do with me. She made that decision based on her and what she felt was right for her life, and I forgave her, and we cool now to this day. But I was pissed for a good 6 months.
Mature of you.
I was pissed for a good 6 months. It was like,
mature.
Jim asked a good question. What if he gets in another relationship and she may not be cool with you being his partner?
Now we did that disillusion. You're right. We did discuss that. We discussed that if there was another woman that came into play, or another man, another woman, because chances are I'm not going to get another man, but if there was another woman that came into play.
Let's not put that into the atmosphere.
I'm just saying with regards to on the business end, because I'm gonna make my money. I'm a broker. But on the business end, if another woman came in, she didn't feel comfortable with me being around, which she shouldn't, because I am a threat. I thought that I told him I would step back. We agreed.
I respect that. I respect it.
We did agree that I would step back in the event that that he needed to do that.
Because I am a threat. I might want that nigga back with me.
He gonna always be thinking about me.
If I want him back, I'd get him.
Well, goddamn. Okay. Charles having to fire people.
That's kind of like I'm the hammer on that one. But the thing is, with family, it's that tugging at heartstrings of, baby, they need a job, and to date, I haven't fired anybody in the family.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
You need to have chicken up in there. Have a fight.
Because I will do it.
Have you not fired them because even if they messed up, they've stepped their game up, or just because you don't?
It's both. Because, and that's the thing is, I go hard every day, and I know they get tired of me. I don't care. If you don't like it, you don't have to show up the next day. And it's like, okay, I got it. But again, it's the same, I'm repeating the same things as far as like standard procedures. I need for you to do it this way every time. This is how we ensure we get the same quality all the time. Do it the same way every time. And every time I see somebody doing something that's out of, and I'm not gonna fire somebody on the spot for, you didn't toast the buns long enough. Get shit and go. But at the same time, I stay on them every day. And I know they most times they can't stand my guts, but it's either you do what I say or you go. So I've had to fire other people. And it's kind of crazy now I think about it. I haven't fired anybody in the family. They've been with me from day one, but the people outside of the family, I've given them a longer leash, and they've kind of taken advantage of it to the point where it's like, all right, man, you got to go.
Wow.
I had a kid, and he always had the paycheck flu. Where it would be the day after you got paid, like, oh, my dog is sick. It would happen like every paycheck. He wouldn't come in at the following Saturday. So it's just like, all right, man, we're done.
He kicked the heart on that Friday.
I got a question for him though. You say you work 6, maybe sometimes 7 days a week. Is there ever? How long has that been going on? How many years?
Going on 3 years.
3 years. Okay. Is there a plan for you to not have to do that?
I've been gradually stepping back. I got people that do the day-to-day, but because it's all kind of like my baby.
Yes.
So now what I do now is I'll get in early in the morning and I'll try as best I can to get everything going and leave. Like some days some days I have to be there because it's just staffing. We don't have enough staff. But say Thursday through Wednesday through Saturday, I try to get my stuff done and try to be out of the building by 9 o'clock and then come back if I need to.
Okay.
And it's working out, but for the most part, if one person calls off, I got to cover. And it's just the way it is. But I'm trying to get to the point where, because I was working with one of those consultants like a year ago, and that was part of what they were trying to get me to do as far as like you can't grow the business if you're in it.
Facts.
Right.
Facts.
And with me, I'm trying to see the bigger picture, and that's what I've always envisioned. Like for me, Stony Island was always kind of like a pilot, a proof of concept. And to this point, I feel like I've proved that the concept works. Now it's time to scale, and I can't work on the bigger picture if I'm in there flipping burgers and putting meat in the smoker. So that's long-term plan is for me to get to a point where I'm stepping back. So yeah,
That's what's franchise. That's what's up.
Have you ever? You said you haven't had to fire any fam. Have you ever had family leave though on their own accord? Nah. Okay.
I did, and this is again one of my day ones. Her and I would get into it. It's like I told you to do it this way. It's like, well, this is the way I do it. It's like, yeah, that's not gonna work. And we've had it out maybe 2 or 3 times. One day I fired her. One time she quit. And it's always, and it's again, this is kind of like the gift and the curse, but his family's like, and our makeup is like, well, I wouldn't do anything to hurt the business. Our restaurant, I was like, I know. And, on site, it's a hug, and push her in the head, and we get back to business. So, yeah, it's, overall, it's challenging, but it has its ups and downs. And you just deal with it the best you can.
Hey, Ron, take that Instagram message down for me, brother. If I can't see all the comments. Thank you.
It's funny. We sitting up here talking about businesses, and I literally just got a text from him with regards to a contractor who just worked on the property, and we talking about how much money needs to be paid to him, and he sent us the literally while we sitting here. But yeah,
look at that.
that's
how
good
it works.
All right, so we need to start wrapping up because. Oh.
No, we started.
I'm sorry, never mind.
I appreciate you, Ron. We started a little late.
He's like, keep going. Well, okay, we're gonna talk about business a little bit more.
Well, I do want to ask this though.
Yes.
Because it's unavoidable when you're doing business with people that you love, that you have undeniable bonds with. How do you make the emotions? Can you make the emotions not be a part of the business decisions? And if so, how do you do it?
Make the emotions not be
because you're emotionally tied to these people, right? So I'll start this one out.
Yes.
So my boys, I love them. These are the family I chose, right? My boys are the family I chose. I love them. And as I mentioned earlier, it gets tough sometimes when things don't go the way you want them to in business, to remove the emotional aspect from it. So what I always try to do or take into consideration is the same love I have and give them in our relationship as friends. And I give my boys and a lot of leeway, right? Because I love them and they give me a lot, I'm sure. I try to give them that same amount of leeway in the business, but to an extent. So I try to put that emotional piece out there, like, I love you and I got your back. And I know you might be going through this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, this is business. And I want to have that conversation as well. But I want to we came together because of that love. And I want to make sure that we persevere because of that love. But I don't want to make emotional decisions. And by that, I mean, I don't want us to go down a primrose path, or just because you made a suggestion that you are very tied to and the rest of us think it's trash, just because you are a boy and you might feel emotional about it. That's not the business, right? But if there's things going on with you that are preventing you from handling the business the way we want you to, but we know those things are going on, and at the gig, I might care a little bit, but then at the end of the day, you get a paycheck and you got to do it. The way I handle my boys is different in those relationships, but I do want, but the business still has to get done. So you can't let the emotions of that relationship affect the actual decisions of how the business moves. We can't invest in things because you think it's a great idea and the rest of us think it's trash. We can't. So
how do you get around that? Like, if there are 5 of you all, right?
Sorry, Mita. I don't. Mita, look, goddamn, Mita. Mita, you just give me your money. I don't want to hear nothing about your ideas. You got no fucking.
He don't care about us, girl. He don't care about us.
I say my boys because most of my business dealings and partnerships are with
we don't count.
my boys. Y'all count. I love you too.
Whatever. So, like, okay, there's 5 of you all, right? And person 5 comes up with an idea that the other 4 of y'all think are trash. Like, how do y'all approach that? Do y'all do a vote to see who actually wants to do it? Do y'all just all look at him and say, "No, nigga, that's some bullshit. Good night." Like, what's the process of vetoing somebody's strong opinion on an idea?
It depends on the dynamic of that group. I've worked with several different groups, guys and gals. Let me stop saying guys, so my ladies don't think that I don't love you all, because I do. I love you and your opinions. But sometimes, depending on the relationships in that consortium, we'll be like, "Shut the fuck up, get out of here with that bullshit," and you eat that. Or we got to say, all right, we hear you. What about this? What about that? Even when I don't necessarily agree with something, I do try to ask questions that either lead them down a path that might not work, or maybe they can answer the questions I have. But maybe that does. Maybe I didn't see that angle. But if they come to something and we all look at each other like, then we'll say, "What y'all thinking?" Everybody's like, "Nah, that's voted off the island." And when it's easy when it's the majority of you. What gets tough is when it's a couple of you that agree and a couple of you that don't.
Right.
That's where it gets a little contentious.
So what do y'all do? Do y'all vote? Do y'all arm wrestle?
We take it to the sand. Normally, to be frank, if take it to the mattresses, if it's an even decision, normally I'll roll with the let's try it. Let's try it. As long as I don't think it'll completely burn the business to the ground, let's give it a shot. And in the back of my mind, I'm hoping I can say afterwards, "Told you, dumbass." I'm being frank. But we gave it a roll, and then what happens is, a lot of times, I'll be honest, a lot of times it's the same dudes or girls that have the same wild ass ideas, and you gotta let them have one or two. So then when you shoot down the other ones, be like, "Remember the oil wrestling?" The oil wrestling with the pigs you thought was gonna be a good idea? Remember that?
Trash idea.
Trash idea. So remember you thought Versus was gonna be a good thing after Versus existed? We got the cease and desist. Remember that? Can't do that no more. So you gotta have some shit in the bank so you can say, "Hey, bro, your ideas ain't never worked and they not gonna work."
All right. You want to ask Chicken a question?
Oh, was I about to ask something specific?
I just asked the question. You said you would start.
Ah, shit.
You done got a
Girl, you get me talking. You know I'll be forgetting what I said.
you got a whole fucking train. Now you like ask them questions. It's all about
It's
me.
all about me. Ask me more questions.
Negro. All right. Why we do need to kind of wrap this up because we are.
Wait, hold on. What do we? Oh, personal. How do you remove the personal piece from?
Oh yes, there you go.
Yeah, that's like, yeah, he would probably be better for this because I was a submissive wife. So, my husband made the decisions, when it comes to finances. So if, we would talk, I would give him my opinion. And if my opinion didn't make more sense to him, we went with his opinion because he made good decisions. So I was cool with that. Like it wasn't.
You are making every black man in the comments dick hard, right?
No, I'm saying like because I felt like if it's us and we, right? And so even if he made a bad decision, we made that decision together, because I relinquished my power for him to make that decision. So once I say we should do it this way, and then he say, "No, I think we should do it this way," and then he state his reasons why. Now, because he was very controlling, there were times in which that he had to explain to me why, we had to do it the way in which that he wanted to do it. And sometimes I didn't get it. And if I didn't get it, it was fine, because I would still, submit to him. And then that would be because that was my husband. Like it wasn't like he was a boyfriend or whatever, and whatever happens. And then we made that decision, and whether it was a good or bad.
Shut up.
We made it happen.
That face.
I'm saying, so it's different when it comes to a marriage. Like if we was
I
just,
get what you're saying. I'm just this fucker right here.
Ladies, take
oh my
notes.
goodness.
Sounds like all them in the comments is like, girl.
Jennifer, like, get back together. So, but I do want to specify this because before the brothers take it and run, because I know they will. He had built a cachet of trust. He had already shown you that he was a leader in his field and had great thoughts and won more than he lost, which gave you the comfort to relinquish that.
Yes. Yes, most definitely. It wasn't just no random dude be like, just because I'm a wife, I'm gonna. No, I had saw his track record. I had saw the things in which he had done and saw the things in which he had accomplished, and we were moving. As a matter of fact, if I could just share this quick story, it's a little graphic if it's okay. So
Love it.
So
I don't know where we're going, but okay.
We were
I don't
we
care.
were purchasing a very expensive sports car. And it was leased. Like he only did leases. You know, he didn't want to buy anything because he always liked to have new toys. And so he was getting a very expensive car, and he was on the fence about it, right? And so right before we were ready to make this decision, some things had happened during that week. Like I was sick that week, and the week prior to us going into the dealership, and then right when we got into the dealership, we was kind of. He was like, I don't know. And I'm like, baby, you make good decisions. Like, make this decision. Like, you got it. He was like, I don't know. I don't know. And then I thought to myself, oh, I was sick last week. I wasn't feeling well. So he hadn't had a chance to have his release.
He was clogged up mentally.
So I took him in the parking lot of the dealership in our little car and helped him release.
Where's the show going?
He was very good.
I love where we're going.
But he was very good on making that decision.
Did he buy the car?
And he bought the car. He was like, let me get 2 of these. But my point is, we never missed a payment. We was never late on a payment. We were never late on anything. And we loved the car. We enjoyed it. We had fun. It was never it was a bad purchase, it was a bad this, because I knew he made good decisions. So for him to be, wavering on the decision, I knew it had to be something that
Chicken,
I hadn't
that
done
may
right.
have been your point of telling that story, but that's definitely not the takeaway of that story.
Takeaway.
Go ahead, Brian.
Did you all do it in the car he was purchasing?
No. We did it in our car.
Oh, in your car?
Yeah, the
That
car
you
we
sold to
came
the
in.
dealership? Somebody.
That's my question.
Yeah, because somebody had to drive away in that car. Sorry.
Wow.
Anyway.
Good luck topping that, Charles.
How do you get the emotion out of it, Chuck?
Data. I'm a
Data.
guy.
That's right. You a data dude. That's right.
I'm a data guy. So, and at the same time, you gotta kind of with in my space, it's all like conceptual as far as like food concepts. I just try to think outside the box. But any decisions, if there's an item on the menu that's not doing too well, scrap it. And I'll look at the data on what's sold historically, and then with things I try to come up with, because sometimes I'm trying to do something that nobody's doing. I've put some off the wall stuff on the menu and didn't sell any damn thing, and it just never, it's not coming back. Like with the I do like just thinking of one like the brisket Philly that I do. When I put it on, it sells out quickly, and people are always saying, when does it come back? And I try to stretch it out so that it's a draw. And,
That's right.
Just to make us a destination.
Like the McRib.
So yeah,
He has done a McRib too.
But not the McRib.
Not the McRib, but it's like it.
He has
It's
done a version of
limited time.
What
I
I'm
like
saying
that.
is the McRib is trash, but yes.
but for me though, there aren't too many emotional decisions. And the other thing is, and I'm talking like corporate, but voice of customer. When people are telling me, "Hey, I like this," I try to mix things in, but always try to keep our customers in mind as far as, and just always being mindful of where I'm at, with pricing. Because if you raise something a quarter, you guys getting high, and it's like, and I try to make sure, because I'm very mindful that we're on 83rd and Stony.
Right.
I can't charge South Loop prices.
That's right.
Right.
Yet.
Can't charge.
Can you pay with cash at your
once
place?
you're at Wicker Park, you can do whatever you want.
So can you pay with cash at your spot?
So it's just big on data, just letting that drive all my decisions versus emotions.
That's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
It's a good way to do it. Let me ask this, and then we're gonna have to wrap it. What's the one mistake you've made?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to close with.
That you would tell others to avoid when it comes to dealing with business relationship with family and or friends? You'll think about it for a second. Sean, you had a relationship you haven't really touched on a whole lot.
Well, definitely do not start a business with somebody that you were trying to start a friendship with or rekindle a friendship with. That is a no-go. I learned a lot during that time. I think And most of this would probably be things you need to know in business anyway. We weren't super clear on our roles. We kind of just threw some stuff out there and let each other run with it without being like crystal clear what the expectations were, for sure. I would also say the emotional piece, right? I think at the time that was both of ours first business. We weren't able to kind of separate our emotions from trying to execute the business, not just her, but me as well. And I think I had the addition of also being pregnant at the time. So I was just like, not saying you can't be pregnant and own a business, but at least I can't. I wasn't able to do that. So I would definitely say you need to be crystal clear on expectations going into the business. Like, what do you want to execute? Have that, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, have all of that kind of those milestones mapped out so that everybody knows what they're driving toward. We absolutely did not do that as part of our business plan. So definitely say that. And I'll say again, don't start a business with somebody that you're trying to be friends with. Not a vibe.
I agree.
And I'll let our guests think about it for a hot 1 second. I'll chime in. I think flexibility is something I would do differently on both ends. On some accounts, I was way too flexible and needed to nip some things in the bud way earlier, but because they were friends, I kind of let shit snowball. And then on the other end, I wasn't flexible enough. I treated it too much like a business. And even in my quote unquote business relationships, I'm flexible with the way I work with people at work, right? Like I try to get in everybody's headspace and lane and figure out what way is best to communicate to get the results I need. And sometimes in business with personal relationships, I haven't been. I've been very rigid, been very about this is the way we should do it. This is the way it needs to be done. We made an agreement. So for example, former roommate of mine, I'm in college, I was in his wedding. We had an email distribution list that we marketed on, and he had pulled out the company and had been bought out or whatever. We made an agreement that after a year, during that year, he could sell or blast anything he wanted to on the surface. When that year was done, about 2 months after that, his sister had started a law firm or a law practice or whatever. And he wanted to use it to advertise. And I was like, nah, your contract up, bro. That's done. You're going to have to pay me for that.
Wow.
And we're not cool to this day behind that. And I eat that. That's on me. I should have been more flexible there because we built that together. And it wouldn't have mattered to me one way or another had he used it. But I stuck to that contract. Not to be an ass, but just because I was being very strict about it. So flexibility on both ends needs to be balanced, right?
Charles?
You touched on expectations. Just upfront, just to kind of set the table, make sure everybody has clear expectations, clearly define roles, and then at the same time, just within the landscape of the business, I think you need to have people that kind of that plug in different holes, have balance or whatever. For me, it's if I don't show up, everything comes to a screeching halt. I have a person that I'm bringing along to have them showing them the things that I need to be done. But when you have a workforce, and I'm not calling it low skill, but when you have folks that are doing a limited set of tasks, that kind of cripples you from the standpoint of if you miss one of your key people, it just overburdens every other aspect of the business. So I think expectations, clearly defined roles, and then having a well-balanced team. Those are the things that really can make sure that you don't fall into some big issues down the line.
Good call.
Yeah, that defined roles pieces.
It's huge. Yeah. Huge. Will save you a lot of time and a lot of headache. Mistakes to avoid.
I agree with all of that, what you all said. And it just kind of reminds me of like just in regular relationships, clearly defined what it is that we are going to do and what we're going to say. And so having that contract stated ironclad, no matter what happens with your emotions and you feel a certain way, I think that, having that set up in advance is good. And I think what the mistake in which that I may have made is not having a contract. Not having.
You was
I think I'm drinking my apple juice.
Uh.
But not having a contract to state, well, this is going to happen regardless of anything else that happens. You know, and I do recall, you know, we talked about red flags earlier. I do recall when we were dating, he was like, well, you know, if you move in, if we, you know, become an item, you know, certain things are going to stop. And it was kind of like, that was cute, you know, but I'm sure that's not going to be the case. Ha ha ha, he, you know, and then, you know, certain things did stop. He was very clear on his expectations and on his, you know, delivery. But having had that in writing, or no, this is what's going to happen, and this is what I require, and this is what I want, regardless of what happens in the relationship or what company I go to or whatever the case may be. I think that would have that could help, you know, with regards to, again, clearly defined roles, the same thing.
Okay.
No, I think that's important though, to say that in certain relationships and business relationships and friendships, that while you're talking about clearly defined roles, some of that's got to be put on paper, and it's got to be contractual, right?
Yes,
we
sure.
skip that part a lot
Yes.
of times because we trust the relationship, and that's a recipe for success.
And I want to say this: when I was in college, right, I had a guy that I was dating that needed, I want to say it was maybe $3,200. It was an obscene amount of money that he needed, and I had it, but it was to get his car out of repo. Right,
That's
his
a
car
bad
was in
investment.
repo.
That's a terrible investment.
And I wrote out a little note and took it to the currency exchange. And we were dating at the time. And so I said, well, I got this money. I know you need your car. And so it's going to be repoed. And I mean, it's been repoed. And so you need to get your car. So we're just going to go to the currency exchange. I got it and get it notarized. And so that's just saying you're going to pay me the money back. And again, I didn't think anything of it. I was just thinking, you know, it's just money. And so he was like, well, you don't think I'm going to pay you back, chicken? And I'm like, I'm sure you are. I'm saying, this is just paperwork. I didn't even think anything. It was just like, this is just paperwork. But it held him to that standard to make sure that he paid me back. Now he ain't paid nobody else back, but he remembered that
Clearly
notarized
not.
letter.
Clearly
That
not.
you go to court on.
You got it
Right.
on contract.
The same thing we talk about with prenups. People say, don't get a prenup. You plotting to demise your relationship. No, I'm not. I hope the relationship lasts forever. I got into this planning on the relationship to last forever, but shit, we know 50% of marriages don't. So it's a business arrangement. Let's talk business.
Let's talk business.
No. All right. I think we can wrap this up.
You look like you were looking for something. Nah, you good?
Yes,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
fine.
All right,
God.
make sure.
I'm
I
gonna
thought
talk to you
had
later,
it-
Jen.
I thought you had it up. That's where you held the question. I thought you
No,
had
my
that question.
daughter was texting me. I was trying to see what she was saying.
Oh wow.
All
All
right.
right.
Any final thoughts? Any other last words of wisdom we have not touched on or shared that you wanna give to the audience?
I'm gonna talk to Jen later.
Jen's a whole motherfucker. Charles.
Now we're done.
Now you good? All right. Chicken,
He is consistent if nothing else.
Charles is my guy. I love that. Chicken, anything we missed that you wanna?
I think it's great.
You good? All right. Sean.
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you both for coming on. I know Brian's gonna say this too, but thank you both for coming on.
I'm not now.
We always love a newbie, so thank you for hanging out with us and letting us force you to talk. We greatly appreciate it. Aw. But yeah, I you know what? I will be honest. This is one thing Brian brought to me, and I was like, can we talk about that for an hour? And here we are, like an hour and a half later, discussing that. So thank you guys for sharing your wisdom. Perhaps me and Brian will take some of these for our own.
Girl, fuck you.
But yeah, it's just good time as always.
Yeah. I think what I've taken away from this conversation is that business with family and friends, it can work. It can be beneficial. It can be the best working relationships you could have, to be honest. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't treat them as working relationships.
Correct.
That doesn't mean you shouldn't have boundaries. That doesn't mean you should have contracts. That doesn't mean you shouldn't have roles and responsibilities. That doesn't mean you shouldn't have tough conversations, right? But if the relationship, hopefully, is that strong, and Charles said this earlier, the journey and the destination when you get there is great with people, you work with, and you get to, you get cool with the people you work with that you didn't know beforehand. But for family and friends, if you want to take that journey together and find success, it just makes that love and that bond even stronger. But again, that doesn't mean that you should not treat it as a business relationship. So you cannot, when those lines get blurred, you have some definite boundaries to put everything back in its box. And I'll say this also, you gotta understand that while you're working with somebody that you love, or whatever, you got to separate the two. As tough as that can be sometimes, right? Some people aren't meant to work together as friends or family. Sometimes that shit's not going to work out. But that doesn't mean the person you loved before you got into that business relationship isn't the same person. It just means you can't do business together. And that's the only thing it means. You just can't do business together. Anyway, thanks for joining us for another episode of the In the Zone podcast. We'll be right back here. Same bad time, same bad channel. Next Wednesday, 7:00 p.m. Central. Love y'all. Till next time.
In the zone. In the zone. In the zone. In the zone. In the zone.